Hi guys. Uh, I got a few nice comments, funnily enough. Um, I got two comments from this guy. I think he's an American guy. FRX or there's a few a few letters and a blue kind of avatar. You know who you are, and so yeah, one talking about it's a really long essay. And after reading it, I was quite impressed. I thought, wow, that's really impressive. Must be some kind of psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever, some therapist, or very knowledgeable. So I think he started off by saying he thinks in my formative years I must have had a massive amount of trauma in order for me, for the reason, if I'm correct in thinking that that's where my hypochondria or health anxiety comes from. I'd say no. That's a good guess. That's an intelligent guess, but I'm simple in some ways and complicated in other ways. As a child growing up, because I've seen therapists and they ask you about, your childhood, and some people have really terrible childhoods. They're abused by their parents. I can only say that my childhood was the best part of my life, the happiest part of my life. But that's the childhood that I remember. When I found out that I was adopted, somebody, whether my parents or an auntie or whatever, said that my biological mother was taking tablets in order to abort me. So maybe in the womb I was already receiving toxins, poisons, and maybe that's why I got the autism or ADHD, or maybe it damaged me somehow. And so my trauma could have been a chemical one or a physical one pre-birth. All I know is when I was about 9 years of age, before then, children think they're immortal. We all, even in our 20s, we think we act like we're immortal. We drive fast in cars, drink, smoke, have unprotected sex. We think we can beat people up and stuff. We think we're immortal. We're like a superhero. Or at least we're immortal. You don't think about death, right? At the age of 9, I was watching Hammer House of Horror films with Christopher Lee was Dracula, and was it Peter Cushing? Werewolf, Frankenstein, and all those like vampire films. I used to love those films. Absolutely loved them. And although they are scary, but I used to like the gothic setting, the alchemist den in the basement and the crazy scientist trying to make, you see, all those films like Frankenstein, he's trying to create a perfect human being, and that perfect human being will live forever or live for a very long time. They're trying to create the superhuman being. Dracula, he is an immortal. He drinks the blood of especially white, pure virgins, and he lives at night time. He doesn't see the sun. It's all to do with the immortality, and that immortality is kind of evil. I don't know why immortality has to be evil, because it's different from the norm, right? Well, anyway, at the time, I didn't really think about these things. All I knew is, those were quite cool at the time. I used to love watching them, and the good always used to win. So Dracula was always killed through a stake in the heart, and I remember that I couldn't go to sleep on my back because I was afraid there was going to be a stake in my heart. Someone's going to, was going to put a stake through my heart. So I slept on my front, and even on my front, I put my hands little hands like this, and I ended up sleeping on my belly. So at the age of 9, I kind of realized vulnerability and mortality, and I had that anxiety. Oh, we're going to die, we're all going to die and stuff like that. So I said to my mum, Mum, are we all going to die? And like, am I going to die? Are you going to die? And she said, oh, son, don't think about these things. And I said, I insisted. I said, are you going to die? Am I going to die? She said, that won't happen for a long time. And so I thought, what does it feel like to be in a coffin in the dark and be not alive forever and ever? What? So I was thinking, what? You see, I was playing around with the idea because all we know is life. We don't know death. You know, you get some smart comments, they think they're smart, but they haven't really thought about it. They quote some famous philosopher. Some famous philosopher said something like, before I was alive, something like, before I was alive, I didn't know the difference between like the life and death. So what's the difference afterwards? Well, there is a difference, because before you were alive, you didn't exist. Now that you exist, you know the difference. You lose something. So that's the answer to that. There's a famous quote. I'll bring it up here. You'll see it in a second. So somebody wrote that quote down when I did my video, what's the meaning of life? And in that video, some people said, oh, the meaning is, and then obviously you're going to get all the Christians saying, well, the meaning of life is, Muslims will say, submit yourself to Allah. Christians will say, to be saved by Jesus or whatever. They're not really good answers, They're not good answers. For me, they're not good answers, They're not a solution to any well, they are solutions, because if you think about it, if you're born into this earth, this planet, this world, and then you're going to die, and there's nothing after that, there would be chaos. There would be the amount of crime that you would see would go through the roof, because it wouldn't matter what you do. What you do does not matter. So again, you know who you are. In a previous comment, you said something like, you're something. I know I'm putting words into your mouth because you probably didn't say that, but I'm just getting a rough vibe, okay? And forgive me if I'm wrong. I don't mean to put words into your mouth, but something like, why do you look after 6 dogs? It's making you suffer. Your parents. Think about your parents. If your parents are looking down on you, they wouldn't want you to suffer, right? So, and also when we die, like this consciousness, when you cease to exist, this consciousness ceases to exist. Things like that. So my answer to that is not a definitive answer. My way of thinking is always changing. But for now, is try and understand that I'm not an ordinary human being, i.e., I don't have a family. I don't have any human beings around me. And I know that the next thought would be, well, your dogs are stopping you from socializing. They are and they aren't. Because before I had dogs, I didn't socialize. I was still alone. I stayed in my family and I was part of my family, but I still was lonely. How do I explain this? Well, I think I did explain it. So it's true that my dogs cause me anxiety, but there's always a payoff, isn't there? There's not a payoff. There are pros and cons. On the one hand, they cause me anxiety, but is that anxiety worth it? Or are there any good sides to having dogs? When you're in a forest, you can't see how many trees there are, right? As soon as you, if you were propelled out of the forest, you had a rocket on your back, then you can see, wow, look how many trees there are, look how beautiful it looks. When you look at a forest from far away, oh look, they look wonderful. Looks like loads of on that hill, it looks like loads of broccoli. It looks absolutely beautiful. But when you're in it, when you're in the middle of it, you have to deal with like mosquitoes, ticks, it's too hot, or I don't know. There is a difference, isn't there? So now that I'm away from them, I miss them. there's a love and hate relationship. It's not all hate, it's not all bad. I know in that house where I live, there's no way there's going to be a burglar or even a gang of burglars, even if they're armed, that are going to come, and not all of them will survive. Even if they come with guns, the dogs don't care. They'll put up a fight. I'll put up a fight. So in terms of security, I feel very, very, in fact, too secure. Of course, people can come with machine guns and kill me, whatever. I mean, I don't know why they would. I feel quite secure, so I don't feel unsafe, for example. So that's one good point. But also, they're animals that love me, and you see them now that they're big and they're doing peas but I saw them when they were puppies. I saw them. When my dad passed away, I felt the S word. And I was hugging trees because I didn't get that from my then wife. I didn't get any sympathy or anything like that. The way she helped me was by helping me do the funeral arrangements. Of course, I paid for them, but I paid for everything. So, that's the way she used to help me. There was no no hugging or anything like that, or no that tactile kind of somebody comforting you. Yeah, so they were born. They were born after a month, let's say, and it gave me something to love, something to play around with. I became like a child again. I was playing with these little things. Little did I know, these little things are going to become huge. And when they were puppies, they couldn't run around. They were stumbling around. But, then, because I didn't train them properly, then they became difficult. Anyway, I can still train them now. And I have been taking them out. Now that I only have 4, because 2 were... One, my ex-wife wanted because my daughter, that was her dog, and she misses her dog, and my ex-wife said she's bored. And I said, I bet you that dog is going to be, she's going to get bored with the dog because she's thinking about teenage stuff, boys, whatever. She's going to get bored, and that dog's going to come back. Anyway, I said, that dog coming back, that dog is part of this family, okay? She said, okay. So I had my son for a few days, but I couldn't have him for longer because the drug that I'm taking was pooping out. Basically, it was losing its effect. It was kind of going into withdrawal. So what I did is I upped my dose, which was the worst thing, because the medicine is not working for me. So when I upped the dose, it kind of saw the increase in this drug as a toxin, and it's the first time ever in my life I felt I was going insane. I had pressure in the frontal cortex, in the front part of the brain, and I lied down and I felt I was going in, like, impending insanity or something. I felt, how can you feel that you're going insane? That's the only way I can describe it. I went down to 2.5. Now I'm on 1.25, which is literally nothing. At the moment, I'm fighting you can't fight it. I'm riding. I'm like a cork on the waves. I'm riding the withdrawal. It's as if I'm sitting down on a hill and I'm waiting for that tsunami to come. There's nothing I can do. All I can do is just sit there and just accept it and just lie down and ride it. Because after 33 years of taking a drug that affects your brain, you can imagine what's going to happen when you go cold turkey. Yesterday, I had palpitations, anxiety, difficulty breathing. There's nothing you can do. I took some magnesium and I ate carbohydrates. I did belly breathing. I calmed my mind down as much as possible. I checked to see if there's any tension in my neck, my jaw, my hands, and I say to myself, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, I'm safe. At the same time, I've got this butterfly, and I'm saying, it's safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. So I'm telling my mind I'm safe because this is just a reaction to withdrawal. And all hell will break loose because brain chemistry is changing. In the past, I just increased the dose because the bitch pulls you back. That's what I used to say. The drug, the bitch pulls you back. But this time the bitch can't pull me back because the bitch is the enemy now. I can't take that drug anymore because it's become toxic to my brain. So I've got no choice but to take whatever withdrawal is going to give me. And so it's really, really lonely and scary because I suppose the two things in my mind, I was thinking, years ago there was that film Trainspotting, and is it McGregor? Ewan McGregor, I think his name is, one of the actors. He was coming off heroin, I think, and he would have like delirium visions of. There's a scene where he has a vision of a dead baby, crawling on the ceiling, and he's going absolutely nuts, screaming, shouting. And then I'm thinking, a few years ago, about 10 years ago or more, I saw a list, and it showed the drugs that give the worst withdrawal, or the most difficult to come off. I think it's withdrawal. Number 4 on that list was heroin, and number 2 was Seroxat, what I'm taking. Number 1 must have been crack or something, I don't know. So my brain put these two things together, and it has fear, what's going to come. Fear in itself creates more problems, so I have to act as if nothing's going to happen. If it does, then it's just my body. It's difficult thinking like that when your heart is palpitating. You feel like you can't breathe properly. You're dizzy, feel really dizzy, anxious, really anxious, afraid, really afraid that you're going to die. And you have to say to yourself, it's okay, nothing's wrong. I went to the GP, and the GP said, it's okay. The male doctor, he said, it's okay. It's only anxiety. He's kind of talking down at me. He's like smiling. It's only anxiety. I felt like saying, it's not only anxiety. After 33 years on this drug, it's not only anxiety. You can have only anxiety. But I didn't. I was saying that in my head. I never said that to him. Actually, it's quite dangerous talking about your GP or being upset with your GP and not satisfied. There was a bloke, this guy, he's legally blind. He complained about, some medicine or drug that he was taking. And he didn't complain directly about the GP. He just complained that maybe it was taking a long time. He got struck off by the GP because they saw the tweet or something. That's unbelievable. That's like, how can you do that to one of your patients when he didn't specifically say anything bad about the practice or he's just complaining, that's all. As we all do. We all complain, don't we, about the GP or our practice. And he had to find another GP. Bloody hell. So I better zip my mouth. I better not say anything. I went to I said it already.
I was shocked. I mean, I think it was, I felt it was extremely disproportionate and retaliatory.
Joshua Collins is legally blind. He relies on repeat prescriptions to manage chronic pain and help him sleep. He took to social media to complain about a painful and difficult process to collect his prescriptions and his requests being ignored. Hours later, Joshua says he was dropped as a patient.
I just literally that morning got a notification, your account is closed. And I checked in the app, could not access my prescriptions anymore, couldn't see my history or anything like that.
He was given a month's supply of medication and a letter saying he'd been removed from the practice with immediate effect.
There was no indication of what I would do in the meantime without having a GP. What am I supposed to do while I'm going out having to go through the trouble of signing up elsewhere? And GPs have also got the right to reject me as well.
We approached First Medical several times for comment but haven't received a response. But in a letter sent to Joshua following his complaint, the practice set out its reasons for removing him. It talks about you posting on social media, and it says, in this instance, the volume and nature of the comments that followed became increasingly personal towards members of our team. And the directors concluded that the trust and mutual respect necessary for a continuing doctor-patient relationship had unfortunately broken down. Do you think that's a fair response from them?
Absolutely not. None of the comments that I had made, especially those made before the dismissal from the practice, were ever directed at any individual member of staff. In fact, I upheld in the comments several times, I reiterated that I didn't have any issue with the GPs there. The medical care I received was perfectly fine. The GPs were fine.
Joshua's now looking for a new GP and questioning whether speaking out about his care should have cost him his doctor.
I went to the GP. They just left me on my own. They sent me a text, a kind of automatic text. Phone 111 if you feel, the mental health team. I've asked them. I said that my money's running out. And what do I do? Do I go to... And they said you can go to the Citizen Advice Bureau. I've explained I've got social anxiety. I've explained ADHD and all this stuff. And they say, well, go to the... Don't they get it? They just don't get it. These people are not... I'm not saying they're stupid, but they get it. I know about the Citizen Advice Bureau. What can you do for me? Just like in Norwich as well. I missed so many appointments to get benefits, and so I went to see the mental health counsellor or whatever, and I said, can you help me please get in touch? Could you phone them for me, or can you do something? He went online and he said, well, this is the number, it's okay, just phone them up. It's as if like I'm speaking to people who are deaf. Don't you understand that I would have done it myself if all I needed was a bloody number? I know how to go online, I can get a number and I can start the process, but this starting the process is difficult. And these people are the ones who are supposed to be professionals. They know what ADHD is. They know. If they know, why can't they help me? Why don't they realize that the help they're giving me is not help at all? It's just like someone on YouTube saying, well, just contact the the Citizens Advice Bureau. Just go there, make a meeting. It's the same. Like, any of you guys could have told me this. So you might as well go and work in a GP and be paid as a professional. I have to laugh. It's bonkers, really. So going back to what the guy was saying, my older brother, he's 62. Well, he's not that older. Definitely a lot more mature than me. So I've answered a few things. Okay, the point that you make about, if you watch, that is, the point that you make about my parents watching and what would they think? Well, on the one hand, you said when you die, consciousness dies as well. So when you're talking about my parents then, in your own words, don't exist because consciousness is gone. They don't exist. They're gone. So my parents won't be, if I'm mistaken, sorry, but in your point of view, my parents can't be seeing anything. So how can I think that my parents wouldn't have wanted this? So let's just cut to the chase. It doesn't really matter what my parents wanted, what I want, what you want, what anybody wants. Because we're all, the way I see it is, maybe I'm wrong, but we're just ghosts. We're walking around corpses. We're ghosts. That's all we are. That's why, when I talk about, in the past I've spoken about immortality and creating the elixir of life. Why not? Because it's impossible. Everything that you do is impossible. Why do you go to work? To earn a living, to do this, to do that, to one day die? What's the point of it? There is absolutely no point. If you think that far, there's no point to do anything in this life. What you're supposed to do, you're supposed to experience life. What for? To what end? Unless you believe that you are a spirit, you're supposed to come here and learn something, and then at some point, reincarnate, come back again. There's no proof for any of that. So why not live your life in a wacky way? If God, let's be brutal about this. Let's say God doesn't exist. Jesus Christ doesn't exist. Allah doesn't exist. My parents are more real to me than God, because I've never seen God. None of you have ever seen God. All those Christians that say, Gerald, you just believe in Jesus. What does it mean to believe in Jesus? I mean, do they know what they're talking about? If they do know, what does it mean? And then, because it's a belief system, as soon as you touch that belief system, anybody who says anything against Allah, and they want to kill you. Anybody who says anything against Jesus, they don't want to kill you because Jesus's message was more benign, but they still don't like you because you've touched their ego, their belief system. You don't do that. When I talk about those people on the left, gay vegan, I'm just joking, because I'm a kind of vegan myself. Yeah, I'm gay myself. Yeah, I'm happy at least, So all this talk about wokery, if you talk about people on the left being woke, then they get pissed off. So you can't talk about politics. You can't talk about politics or religion. Those two things you can't talk about because people get butthurt. And I understand, because we're tied into that religion. It's part of us. But if we really think, what is religion? Religion was created so that people wouldn't go around raping, committing murder. Because if they thought this is all there is nothing else, then you would have a very different world. You would have a very different society. You'd have a lot more crazy people. And I'm not talking about those people who are crazy, as in people who have mental health problems. I'm talking about people who would deliberately do things. Because if this is all there is, for example, the idea of marriage, if I knew this is all there is, and like what religion says isn't really true, it's made up, then I would have like 20 wives. I mean, not me, but I mean, men would say, I want 20 wives, just clonk one over their head with a with a big stick and drag her, like in caveman days, No, but seriously, people wouldn't have any qualms, would they? They would definitely have different values, right? So when you're saying, my parents, they wouldn't have wanted this, you're talking about the past. And yes, we can think about that past. When I look at my parents and see their photos, I feel that they're with me. I feel that they are part of me, and somehow they're there. They're in my memory banks. They're in my mind and in my body, because my mind, it does affect my body, and I feel happy, really happy. Really blessed that I had these parents. Because if I had the mother that, my biological mother, I would have had a very different life. She lived in London, in Ladbroke Grove. She had at least 3 relationships, 3 different fathers to her children. She had 2 children with an Englishman, and then she had me from a Spanish guy, one cool guy, I hope, and who left her. And then she had another boy, another son from a man from Ghana. You can call her a kind of woke person. She's into like Eddie Murphy and all those black comedians and stuff. Because she's probably one of those people that thinks, oh, okay, well, I'm a foreigner, so I have to associate myself with all the other foreigners, because I'm not part of white society or whatever. I'm totally different. Even if I thought I was different, I wouldn't associate myself with another. I'd rather be a loner, than be with anybody in any group. I've always felt that I'm not a loner, in limbo, kind of, never part of anything. I didn't have any traumatic event. My parents were great, when I was a child. The only thing was, my parents did tell me that for 3 months after I was born, I had colic, and My dad used to say to me, "You didn't let me sleep for 3 bloody months." So I used to keep them up all night screaming in pain. So that's the only thing they ever said, that the first 3 months I had the colic, I had pain. And that's probably because I wasn't breastfed. I had to drink that. Maybe I was breastfed because I was adopted at the age of 9. Oh, and I found out not in my early 20s, and when I was 27, 28, that's when I found out that I was adopted, and been on antidepressants ever since. That's a coincidence, isn't it? That really shook me because, sometimes I think I wish I didn't know. I wish I didn't find out, because it messed me up, because I thought that my whole life was a lie. That's deeper than you might think. What that means is, every time I went to, because I didn't have any brothers or sisters, so I had one cousin who was closest to me, other cousins and other people and other relatives, and I thought I was part of this family, this group of people, this tribe. You go to other, Italian people, you go to uncle's house, cousin's house, and the family is numerous, and then family in Sicily, and then to find out that I wasn't part of them from the beginning. The worst thing was that everybody knew and I didn't know. So I felt that my life pre 28 years of age was all a lie. It's all a lie. It was all a farce, Every time that I was happy, that I was smiling as a kid or joking, everybody knew around me that I wasn't the son of my mum and dad, and I feel like the idiot. I'm the only one. Who never knew. And I grew up that way. But I can't blame my parents, because they were afraid that I would rebel, that I would feel different. I would feel exactly how I felt when I found out, rejected. When I found out that I was adopted, I thought, oh, okay, it's a logical thing that can happen, right? But then I felt that rejection, and with ADHD, you have that rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and so small things can make you feel that you're rejected. That's not a small thing. That's quite a big thing. To be rejected by your own mother is, I think, is the worst rejection. The worst rejection is if there is God. If God rejects you, that's probably worse. But the second worst would be to be rejected by the person that had you inside them for 9 months and bore you. I don't know if I was actually breastfed, because I was with her for 9 days in the hospital, and then she gave me away. So I couldn't have any, don't have any milk, mother's milk. So maybe that messed up my gut as well, because, you don't have that colostrum, you don't have all the things that the mother has. But I suppose it wasn't a cesarean birth, so I did have some kind of bacterial protection. Oh, I wanted to say, like you said, that the CAC score is 0. That doesn't necessarily protect you from heart disease or heart attacks, because the CAC score, the CAC score, I think shows only one of the types of plaque. You've got soft plaque, and hard plaque. Now, you'd rather have the hard plaque than the soft, because the soft can move around, dislodge. So the CAC score of 0 is really good, but it doesn't necessarily protect you. I'm sure there's people who have a 0 CAC score and then have heart disease. It is possible, or heart attack. So it doesn't automatically protect you. It's a good thing, obviously, but it's not. Don't think that you're, I was going to say, immortal, invulnerable. You still can be vulnerable. So a 0 CAC score you're not bulletproof. That's what I'm saying. Because I think there's 2 kinds of plaque, hard and soft. One of them, the CAC score, is a diagnostic tool to see which one of those you have. I'll find out and I'll let you know in a second.
The CAC score of 0 is good news, but it doesn't make you bulletproof. Here's why. A CAC scan only measures calcified hard plaque. Think of hard plaque like a scar. It's actually the final stage of heart disease, where the body has scabbed over old damage. The real danger you need to worry about is soft, non-calcified plaque, which a CAC scan completely misses. Soft plaque is early stage, inflamed, and highly unstable. It acts like a hidden volcano in your arteries. If it ruptures, your body instantly forms a clot to heal it, which can totally block the vessel and cause a sudden heart attack. In fact, studies show that about 15% of people who suffer sudden heart attacks have a perfect CAC score of 0. They had no hard calcium, but they had a dangerous buildup of soft plaque driven by high ApoB, inflammation, or metabolic issues. A 0 score means your arteries haven't hardened yet, which is great, but it's only half the story. You still need to track the broader metabolic markers to know you're truly safe.
So anyway, going back to what you were saying, first of all about my parents, not being happy with, the way I'm living my life, but feeling sorry that they wouldn't want me to have a heart attack or, something happen to me because I'm stressed out about the dogs. Yeah, I do understand that. But also, I'm just thinking, if I didn't have my dogs, it's difficult to explain, especially if you don't have dogs. I was just thinking, after these dogs are gone, I don't want to ever have a dog again because it's too emotionally taxing. Maybe just one dog. One dog is enough, but it's emotionally taxing. Not because you hate the dog, because you love those things. You don't want them to suffer. You've got the bloody vet bills with those extortionate prices. If you can't afford it, you just can't afford it. I didn't buy 6 dogs. They came, bloody 10 came. I had 11 dogs at one point. 12. No, I had 11 dogs. Mum and Dad. Dad was taken away by the police. That's a long story. Anyway, then I had 10 pups. 2 of them died within 4 days. One was crushed and the other one just died at birth. And then I gave 3 away. I sold one. Actually sold one female. And I gave 2 to the dog's home. And then by the time all that passed, it was about 6 months and they already bonded to me and I bonded to them. It was too late. I couldn't get rid of them anymore. It's difficult to explain to a person the feeling. If I think that I have to get rid of my dogs and never see them again, the logical amongst you will say, well, they deserve a better life. You can't give them, you can come up with all the logical reasons why it's right to do, but this is why it's difficult for me to do. Now you'll understand. So in that story, I think the guy, he leaves the dog. Then this child, comes into the dog's life. Then they love each other. There's a relationship between dog and the boy. But then the previous owner comes back, and this is so difficult because the dog then goes to the previous owner, then has to leave the boy, and he sees the boy's sad and
Я бы упал, сделав последний вздох. И звезды мирно падали, как будто до меня. Я каждый раз загадывал тебя не потерять, но больше не могу, я просто мучаю себя. Теперь ты пожалел. В камине в 6 утра фотография твоя. Горят воспоминания о тебе. У камина твои обещания пустота.
All these things, these bloody... I shouldn't watch these videos because they bring these emotions up for me. And maybe people do understand why I keep my dogs. I wouldn't want to give my dogs away. I know it's not logical. There's many things that I do that are definitely not logical. So anyway, I'm in withdrawal now. I'm feeling okay now. I don't have if I had palpitations, lightheadedness, dizziness, I wouldn't be driving. So I feel okay now. I have to be careful not to have too many teas or coffees. I can't stop that as well, otherwise I'll have withdrawal from that as well. So I have 1 tea a day or 2 just to keep the caffeine withdrawal away. I don't want to be stopping too many things. Yeah, so that's just an update on my I think I'm a lot more tearful now. Because it's true that the antidepressant blunts your emotions, but then the problem is you have a bloody dam. That dam is coming down, and I don't really cry. I don't really care about much things. I just cry when I think about the things that I love, like my dogs, my son, my parents, family. Especially my son, because he's innocent, he's young, and I can only see him for a few days. Out of 6 weeks, I was going to see him for a week, and I pushed for that 1 week. And then the drug stopped working. I had a meltdown at the clinic. 2 meltdowns. Couldn't bloody breathe properly. I said I can't breathe properly. I had like an anxiety attack, dizzy, and so they checked my heart and everything, and I had the second meltdown. Yet I was told to go on the 2.5 milligram, and that did my head in. Did my head in is a bloody understatement. I thought I was going to die or go insane or both. Then I said, no, basically I just can't. My brain doesn't take this drug anymore. So I was offered another drug. And I said to the doctor, my brain has become so sensitive to this drug that I've taken for 34 or 33 years. I don't want to take a new drug. My brain is like really sensitive. I don't want any more. I made a choice. And when I felt those palpitations, couldn't breathe properly, dizziness, crying, thinking I was going to die, I said to myself, I'd rather have this than have that drone kind of like tight feeling in my brain and thinking like I'm going insane. That is a loss of control. This is also a kind of loss of control, but it's something that it's the lesser of the two evils. It's something that I think I could manage. Like if you're having a heart attack, you can go to the hospital or something. If your brain is caving in, what could you do? You're losing a part of you that, the captain, you're losing part of you that is the center of who you are. It's not a part of you like the heart. Your brain is still kind of working. So that's the answer to my older brother. And it was a really long comment. I can't read it because I'm using my mobile. I didn't have any traumatic event in my childhood. I mean, nobody abused me, nothing like that. Because I was an adopted child, I was spoilt. My parents treated me really, really well. So I did have, at the age of 9, I did have the awareness of death, or human beings, of vulnerability, mortality, and that gave me so much anxiety. Like suddenly, from being immortal, you realize that you're mortal, that you are going to die. And so for a child, that's unacceptable. Maybe other children would accept it, but I didn't accept it. And there was a period where I cried. And so the doctor said, he's watching too many of these Hammer House of Horror films, so make sure he doesn't watch any more of them. And so that's what happened. And then afterwards I felt okay. But that's the first time I thought about death, and I cried and I was anxious. But then when I found out that I was adopted, there was a 1 year period before everything, like, before I caved in. And I kept having to go to the doctor to seek reassurance that I wasn't going to die, because I had a lump here, I had a lump here, I had a pain in my head, I think what happened was, in that moment when I found out that I was adopted, I died, my parents died symbolically, because my parents weren't my parents anymore. I died because my name, Calogero Fiore, wasn't, it was, I think, France, Louise France. So I looked at my adoption papers, and that was my name. So in that moment, symbolically, the person that I was died. My parents died. My family, everyone around me died. They weren't my family. I wasn't the person that I was. So in that period, and those few months afterwards, there were people who died, relatives and family members. One died of pancreatic cancer, another one died of cancer, another one brain cancer, another one breast cancer, about 4 or 5 of them. I think I linked the two. I linked cancer and my own death. So it was a crisis sort of identity, an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was, but it was an actual death, a symbolic death of me. I was no more. I didn't know what I was, but that old me had gone. I linked that death with other people dying around me, and I started to become hypochondriac, or have this health anxiety. I had to, I don't know how they linked together in my brain, but I started to think that I was dying. I did really have lumps, I did have problems, and at the end of it, I was arguing with my ex-girlfriend, and my brain, the left side of my brain, I had pins and needles inside, and I just went to the hospital. That's not the only thing that I had. I felt absolutely terrible. I felt so sensitive to sound. I thought I was going crazy, but that's the stress and anxiety that I had, arguments and stuff with my ex, and my brain couldn't take it. And suddenly the left side of my brain, I felt, was all numb. And I went to a hospital, and they did a neuro test to see if I had a tumor inside there. Just a basic test. Look here, I was put on Valium, diazepam for 5 days to calm me down. I had an appointment with a doctor. Both of these doctors were African lady and then an African man. And I was put on Seroxat. And that was the beginning of my roller coaster journey on Seroxat, or Paxil it's called in the States. It did really save me. It did really help me, because it reduced anxiety and it reduced depression. I suppose the hypochondria or health anxiety stems from maybe me finding out that I was adopted. That is a blow, not to your nuts, to your soul. It's a blow to, all I can say is, like, the feeling that I had was like my whole life is a lie. And it really is a lie, because people had to lie. They couldn't tell me the truth. It's difficult to explain, but it's easy to say, to hear that, but to actually feel it internally, that your whole life is a lie. People around you lied to you. Before all this, I was the most gullible person on the planet. After this, I don't trust anyone. Forget about not authority figures, I don't trust anyone. And anybody that comes up with some theory or whatever, I have to debunk it. Luckily, it's easy to debunk any theory, most theories. So when people go on about Jesus is your savior, just think about Jesus, Gerald. I want to debunk it, because I don't trust anyone. I don't think I will ever trust anyone. But I think with ADHD, you do tend to be provocative. You tend to want to debunk people and certain theories and stuff. Then I realize afterwards what I'm doing, and I think, oh no, it's so combative. It's not good. It's easy to get into an argument, but the person on the other side doesn't understand that it's part of your makeup. You don't want to be right, or maybe you want to be right, yeah, but you just don't want to be conned. You don't want to be cheated anymore, and so you have to find fault with whatever that person is saying. And usually you can find fault, because no one's perfect, right? There's no theory that's perfect. And so finding fault in that thing, that whatever the person said, makes you feel, it reinforces the fact that, okay, people are liars, people are bullshitters, there's no theory that's 100%. So I think that's the reason why I have that hypochondriosis, or I'm a hypochondriac, or health anxiety. That's the main reason. But even before that, when I was 9 years of age, when I found out about our mortality, our vulnerability as human beings, that shocked me, and gave me so much anxiety. I was crying. I ended up going to the doctor. My parents took me to the doctor. It was that bad. So I always had that inside me, that idea, but it went onto the back burner for years, for decades, until I found out that I was not adopted. And then it took on a new meaning. It made me wake up. Before, I was living life just like as a normal child, but then it made me wake up to the idea of, again, as I was saying, our own mortality, our own vulnerability. We're not immortal. What do you do at that point? A normal person at that point says, okay, we're not immortal, so we just do the best that we can. But that's not acceptable for me, because that means you're on a collision course with a fucking train, and you just accept it. Oh, okay, there's a train there. Oh, just enjoy yourself while you can, because 2 minutes the train's coming. How the fuck can you enjoy yourself when a train's coming to plow you down in 2 minutes? It's not logical. The way I see it is, people are not logical. They think they are, but they're not. How can you be logical about death? Anyway, this is just the way I think. Maybe it's crazy the way I think, or maybe I'm the only sane one and everyone else is crazy. The thing is, people say, well, it's impossible, Gerald, so why even fight it? That's not the point. Your whole life is an impossibility. There's so many things that happen in this life that are not impossible, but useless. What are you doing this? Whatever you're doing, what are you doing it for? Oh, because I love my son. You're going to lose your son. You're going to lose yourself. So what are you doing it for? Why? My dad said it plainly and really in a simple way. And this is a dad that is illiterate, not some professor, some philosopher. When a friend of our family, Pina, Auntie Pina, she was passing away, or she passed away, and he said, oh, Pina, it's as if you never existed. Genius, absolute genius. No philosopher could have said it the same way. It's as if you never existed. So we don't even exist. Oh, we exist because... No, you don't exist. You don't exist. In 10,000 years' time, who's going to remember you? You don't exist. Yeah, well, we exist now. So what? It's just a question of time. That's my point. How can you be logical about these things? So I took the unconventional, or the second route. Instead of putting my hands up and saying, okay, the train is coming, it's impossible to get out of the way, I say, well, I'm going to try and get out of the way. When everybody is saying it's impossible to get out of the way, well, at least I'm going to try. I'm going to try and get out of the way. And if that makes me crazy, if that makes me stupid, if that makes me illogical, then so be it. I have to be what I have to be. Other people have to be what they have to be. I'm not saying that human beings can become immortal. Maybe they can. I don't know. Maybe there is why do we have to taste death? I know people will think, oh yeah, he's still stuck in the child developmental stage. I see what's happening. I don't give a shit what stage I'm in. I don't care what stage I am in. You can put labels on me, but you can understand why I have health anxiety. You see, health anxiety, or hypochondriosis, or whatever, is classified as a mental illness. If you focus too much about your health, that's classified as a kind of health anxiety. You're supposed to go around not having any CAC score. You're going to die anyway. What's the point? Not eating well. The reason why you're supposed to eat well is because it's good business. It gives Tesco and the supermarkets a way to make more money and more profits. If you're going to die anyway, what's the point? What's the point in doing anything about your health? Oh, well, because you can... I don't know. Anyway, that's my rant for today. It's not really a rant. It's just I'm answering one guy who gave a long comment, and it's a really thoughtful comment. A few really thoughtful comments that, yeah, it made me tear up actually. Especially the long one, talking about, maybe I had childhood trauma. It made me feel some emotion, feel sad, and made me tear up. I think I should do a video about the meaning of life, and then I'm going to get all the Christians. I mean, I am a Christian as well, loosely a Christian. All the Christians saying Jesus is the meaning of life. Follow Jesus. What do you mean? Can you please give me a clear path? What does it mean to follow Jesus? Well, read the books of the Bible. Read the Bible. They tell you what to do, but they don't tell you how they did it. You do it first and I'll do it. Explain to me how you follow Jesus. You go to church once a week, okay? Maybe or maybe not. You read the Bible, a few chapters, or you've read it 4 times already, 4 times over, okay? So what does it mean to follow Jesus? To read the New Testament, that's the most important part, because the Old Testament is a bit nutty. And just follow Jesus's teachings. So if somebody slaps you on one side, give them the other side. A lot of these teachings are parables and not supposed to be taken at face value. You're not supposed to directly interpret them. So as I've said in the past, our Abrahamic religions, the 3 religions, there were stories and cultures or religions that, not religions, but a culture that predates them. The Mesopotamian or Sumerian texts predate them. Like the story of Noah's Ark, the flood, I've said this before, predates the Bible. Why don't we look into what happened before the Bible was created, or the culture that came before and what they were trying to teach? Maybe they were trying to teach something else. So anyway, I won't talk about that because otherwise people will be pissed off. And I'm out of my zone of knowledge. I don't know nothing about anything anyway. So anyway, I'm just going through withdrawal in this period, and if I don't do any videos, you know why. Thanks for the comments. That was a very, very good comment, and it made me think.